with self-talk, you want them to have short, clear, concise things to think about that are present focused and action oriented to keep them going.
Yeah, we used to have a saying amongst our athletes of form, fueling, and pacing. And so that's something that you can always remember in any given mile of like, what is the form? So it might be a little bit different for you. It might be like when you're running, keep your arm speed up so your leg speed is up. For me, it might be, well, I run like a sack of potatoes and a donkey dipped in cement, so I've got to stand tall. So whatever my cue is, but there's my form. Fueling, of course, is okay, checking in. Am I getting grumpy and moody? Do I need sugar? Or am I feeling a bit gurgly? Do I need hydration? So you take that. And then pacing is like, okay, how can I get through this mile at the best pace possible? Do I need to take a walk break? Do I need to increase my pace a little bit more? So that's sort of in many ways what you're talking about. I do want to say, because we're sort of getting into some negative talk on when things go sideways, which I want to go into. But before we just dive into that section, I want to talk about fun and joy as well in racing, because I think that's a really important perspective. Racing for me, well, not racing for me. I don't believe racing should be like you're going on trial, and and I think a lot of athletes fall into that trap of, oh my goodness me, my goals were so important and I could puff my feathers 6 months out, but now it's pass fail. Everyone's going to hate me if I don't do well, and they allow the occasion to bypass them. So joy, playfulness, and it's okay to have fun, isn't it?
That's why you're doing it, right? I think for everyone who's not a professional, you have to be like, get anchored back into that when you're going into a race and you feel the anxiety coming up. You have to be like, I remember I'm doing this because I like this sport, because I've put in the time and the training. And so no matter where you're at, you want to make sure that you're staying connected to that for sure. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think one of the things that's really challenging for a lot of athletes is when you've only got one A race a year, for example. And like a lot of athletes don't have the opportunity. Like I tell some athletes who are here at this camp, you should just race more, right? Like you're limiting yourself, but we understand that that's not possible for everybody. So then you're putting that one anchor on your calendar every year, and that adds even more pressure to the mix, because it's just that one opportunity to do the thing that you're doing. So it creates distance.
I'll come back. You started with a question before around our moments. We have 4 main moments in a year, plus individually with athletes, but we like to come out and define what success is. And I think that really starts, I love talking about athletes have already succeeded by the time they get to a race, because of the journey. And it's absolutely true. Most of the rewards that come are out of the journey. But certainly the lessons you gain, the fitness that you develop, the longevity that will create, most of the memories, in truth, come through the training sessions. And so reminding the athlete of that is really good. And it's a balance, but let's not dilute. Winning is fun, and we still want to chase that. And so there is a happy marriage of that. And then the other thing I'd say is a lot of athletes confuse pre-race priming, the body priming itself, and all the sensations, the nerves of a reason that, like, goodness me, I'm getting nervous, so therefore I must not be ready. I'm getting anxious, so therefore I must be fearful. And it's like, no, don't confuse the body getting ready and the absolutely appropriate nerves of coming with a signal you're not ready. And if you go and stand in a waiting room of an Olympic swimming final, there's a lot of nerves in there. There is a lot of nerves, and those athletes are ready. That's what occurs. So you go from there. I want to talk about negative self-talk a little bit, and I want to talk about what happens when things hit the fan, the custard moments. So what do we do? You talked a little bit the other day to me about loudspeakers. You go back to that of it's really normal, I think, for athletes, when you're suffering, when you're fatigued, when it feels like the walls are closing in, maybe you're in the middle of a race that feels like it isn't going your way, that you can go dark mentally. And what do you tell your athletes when they're going to that moment?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective for the listener, what Brad said in the beginning about mental skills is really important for everyone to remember, is they're trainable. And self-talk is one of the mental skills that we have, how we talk to ourselves. And I think there's lots of ways to split it up, but ways to think about it are my thoughts productive? Are they empowering? Not just because positivity can be hard for some people to
wishy-washy,
grasp.
yeah.
Yeah. So are they empowering? Are my thoughts and the way I'm talking to myself helping me go faster, helping me accomplish my goals in this race, or is it pulling me back and holding me back? And one way to gauge that for an athlete is to have this loudspeaker frame, which is if my self-talk was put on a loudspeaker right now and everybody could hear me around me, the athletes around me, would I be proud of what they hear? And then take that a step further is if, we're at the training camp, so the athlete that was having a hard time going up the hill, if her partner or her teammate were at the training camp with them and she was speaking to a fellow teammate the way she was speaking to herself, would that make her a good teammate? Would that be helping that athlete get up the hill? And that's a very easy way for an athlete to realize, wow, I have a bit of an issue. The way I'm thinking is not productive. No, it sounds intense, but it's the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we've all gone there in different stages outside of sport, and that's why training in sports really, really effective, because we need to do the same thing in our life, in work, and in relationships at home. Is the way we're speaking to ourselves and processing things helping us accomplish our goals. So that loudspeaker frame. And then Nancy, you said something yesterday when we talked about this, using it about like how would you talk to your kid that way?
Right. Yeah,
Very
exactly.
similar.
Well, I think you can practice it not only on race day, but in training, because I know athletes that will get into the pool and will berate themselves, doing their swim workout. And I will ask them, is that the way that you would talk to your child? If your child was swimming up and down the lanes, would you say those same things to them? And all of a sudden they'll take a step back and go, oh, well, you shouldn't be talking to yourself that way. You've really got to change that message and that narrative in your head.
I think as well what you mentioned there, and all three of you sort of mentioned shifting the narrative or being trainable. You do have, you are empowered. We are all empowered to evolve and change. And I think quite often, oh, this is what I'm like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, that's you passing the buck on yourself.
Yeah.
Actually, step into that and grow. Take control a little bit. And I really like what you said there. This is one of the things that is so powerful about sport, is that sport in many ways is the purest crucible of stepping into a place of discomfort, peeking over the edge, as I like to say, into a place you've never been, challenging yourself and having to go through a really uncomfortable experience and hopefully emerging the other side. And when you do that, training and ultimately racing, it actually builds a toolkit that you can apply to anything else.